At 2:30 on July 2nd, 2025, the occupied city of Khartsyzsk in Donetsk Oblast erupted in a cascade of destruction. A Ukrainian strike obliterated a massive Russian ammunition depot, igniting fireballs that lit up the night sky for miles. Social media clips on Telegram channels like Exile Nova Plus captured the inferno, with secondary detonations signaling the annihilation of a critical supply hub stocked with artillery shells, missiles, and possibly North Korean drones. This precision attack, part of Ukraine's campaign to cripple Russia's war machine, marks a pivotal moment in the Russia-Ukraine war, now in its fourth year since Vladimir Putin's 2022 invasion. With Russia's economy crumbling and its military stretched thin, Ukraine's strategic strikes, backed by a decisive Western shift, could pave the way for victory, if the opportunity is seized before it closes. The Russia-Ukraine conflict, rooted in Putin's 2014 annexation of Crimea, escalated with his 2022 invasion, aiming to crush Ukraine's sovereignty and block its NATO and EU aspirations. Russia's $87 billion defense budget, per Cypri, dwarfed Ukraine's $12 billion, yet Putin underestimated Ukraine's resilience. By July 2025, Russia holds 20% of Ukraine's territory per osint, but at a staggering cost. Over 1 million casualties and $50 billion in equipment losses per oryx. Putin's demands, ceding Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporizhia, capping Ukraine's military, and barring Western alliances per the Atlantic Council, are non-starters. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, transformed from comedian to wartime leader, declared in a July 2025 Kyiv speech, "Our freedom is non-negotiable." The Khartsyzsk strike, alongside others, shifts the narrative from defense to opportunity. The July 2nd strike targeted a massive ammo depot in Khartsyzsk, 50 kilometers from Ukrainian lines, a logistics hub for Russia's Donetsk offensive, for the Kyiv Independent. Telegram footage showed a mushroom cloud and secondary explosions, indicating a stockpile of artillery shells, anti-tank missiles, and possibly North Korean munitions, per Reuters. The Security Service of Ukraine, SBU, confirmed the strike, calling it a legitimate military target critical to Russian command posts, per Euromaidan Press. Local official Victoria Jakova reported shattered windows and heavy smoke, marking the third major attack on Khartsyzsk since 2022. Costing Ukraine $50,000 in FPV drones with 140 kilometers per hour dives and 2.6 kilograms warheads. Per HUR, the strike destroyed millions in Russian assets, disrupting Moscow's plans to push toward Pokrovsk and Toretsk. Khartsyzsk is part of Ukraine's strategy to dismantle Russia's military infrastructure. On July 1st, drones struck the Kupol plant in Russia's Udmurt Republic, 800 miles from the front, damaging drone microcircuit workshops, per ASDRA. One drone crashed through a window. Another collapsed a 1,300 square meter roof, halting production. The General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces confirmed the strike, targeting Russia's air defense systems. On June 30th, Storm Shadow missiles hit a Russian command post in Donetsk, disrupting the 8th Combined Arms Army, per Ukrinform. Operation Night Blaze, using $50,000 drones to destroy $10 million in Russian fuel, exemplifies Ukraine's efficiency. The August 2024 Kursk incursion, holding 400 square miles until June 2025, exposed Russia's logistical weaknesses, per Reuters. Despite Ukraine's successes, Western aid has been inconsistent. The $435 billion pledged, for the Kiel Institute, prioritized offense over victory. Delays in ATACMS missiles, approved for Russian targets in November 2024 and unrestricted in May 2025. Per Politico, cost momentum. The U.S. paused Patriot and Stinger missile shipments in July 2025 per the Kyiv Independent, citing a Pentagon review. Sanctions faltered. The EU paid Russia $70 billion for gas in 2022, exceeding its Ukraine aid, per GIS. Only 7 Russian banks face SWIFT sanctions, leaving loopholes, per Foreign Affairs Michael Carpenter. The West feared Putin's red lines, a Kyiv Post analyst noted, delaying Ukraine's offensive potential. Russia's military is hemorrhaging. Since January 2024, it lost 1,149 armor vehicles, 3,098 infantry vehicles, 300 artillery systems, and 1,865 tanks, per the Center for Strategic and International Studies, with a 5-to-1 loss ratio against Ukraine. Reliance on Iran and North Korea for munitions, per Reuters, highlights shortages. Economically, a 20% interest rate, 68% sovereign wealth fund decline since 2022, and 9% inflation signal collapse, per Carpenter. The EU's $23.5 billion in Russian gas imports sustains Putin, but a 2027 gas ban could cut oil profits by 25% in 2025, per the European Commission. Putin's 2026 budget cuts, per Reuters, and his claim that all Ukraine is ours reflect desperation. Ukraine's precision contrasts with Russia's brutality. On July 2nd, Russia's Zhytomyr drone attack killed 2 and injured 80 civilians, per Ukrinform. A UN report notes a 37% rise in civilian casualties from December 2024 to May 2025, with 968 killed and 4,807 injured, mostly in Ukrainian-held areas. Russia's execution of 35 POWs and child recruitment for sabotage violate international law. Per Danielle Bell of the UN Human Rights Monitoring Mission, Ukraine targets military assets, sparing civilians. Partisans like Alina, 23, from Zaporizhia, risk torture to relay intelligence via encrypted apps, enabling strikes like Khartsyzsk. We see everything, she told BBC Ukraine. Carpenter's Foreign Affairs article outlines victory, preserving sovereignty in NATO/EU paths, via 4 steps. Seizing frozen assets. The West's $300 billion in Russian assets could fund Ukraine's $4 billion drone program and infrastructure, per Defense Express. Legal concerns raised by France's Emmanuel Macron, per Reuters, are countered by Putin's illegal invasion, per The Guardian's Philip Inman. Co-production agreements. Germany's $5 billion missile co-production and Denmark's $79 million defense integration, per Defense Industry Europe, reduce Ukraine's aid reliance. Ukraine's July 2nd Joint Weapons Initiative invites global investment, defying Putin's isolation demands. Strangling Russia's economy. An EU gas ban by 2027 and sanctions on Russia's shadow fleet and Chinese trade could cripple Moscow, per the European Commission. Isolating China, sanctioning Chinese firms and exploiting Arctic and Siberian tensions, per the BBC and The Hill, could weaken Russia's supply chain, especially with Iran sidelined by Israel's June 2025 strikes, per Haaretz. Zelensky's July 3rd deal with U.S. firm Swiftbeat for 500 drones, per the Kiev Independent, bolsters Ukraine's arsenal. Zelensky's leadership galvanizes hope. We'll fight with shovels if we must, he told CNN in 2025. Drone operator Lieutenant Mykola Kovalenko, striking from Dnipro, dedicated hits to his occupied family. Sergeant Irina Pavlenko, a former robotics student, piloted Khartsyzsk drones, per HUR. Civilians like Lviv teacher Maria, 60, rebuild schools amid strikes, telling Reuters. We build while they destroy. Russian conscripts, like a course survivor, told Medusa, were cannon fodder. Ukraine's $500 million EU drone pledge, per Bloomberg, and Russia's stalled fronts, per Maxar Imagery, signal momentum. A Ukrainian victory would reshape global alliances. NATO's $1.5 billion aid boost per NATO and EU integration counter Putin's demands. China's wavering support, strained by Arctic and Siberian ambitions, per The Hill, weakens Russia's axis. The U.S., despite its July aid pause, faces pressure to re-engage, per CNN. Zelensky's July speech, viewed 10 million times on Telegram, rallied support. Ukraine's drones turned Putin's blitz into a quagmire, a Kiev Post analyst wrote. By 6 o'clock on July 4th, 2025, Ukraine's drone units plan new strikes, their resolve unshaken. What are your thoughts? Can Ukraine seize this moment, or will Russia's stubbornness prevail? Subscribe, like, and comment, and check our videos on Ukraine's storm shadow strikes or Russia's economic collapse for more insights.